Hi, I'm Taylor with the Tanner Steffler Foundation, and today I'm here with Isaac to talk about his experience with schizophrenia.
Hi, my name is Isaac. I live with schizophrenia.
So what is schizophrenia like for you?
It's hard to say how much of life is the schizophrenia and how much of life is just my life. So it's rare for children to express symptoms of schizophrenia. Usually people with schizophrenia don't start showing symptoms until the normal age for your first psychotic episode is for men between 18 and 21, and then for women it's like 22 to like 25.
Oh, okay.
It's different for men and women. Actually, it's weird how different schizophrenia is for a male compared to a female. But anyways, but I am one of the lucky ones that have been experiencing schizophrenia, I think, my whole life. So I remember being very young and often seeing things that weren't there, seeing people that weren't there, animals that weren't there. There's the biggest example I have, I think I was about 7 or 8, and I was praying one night, and I was really into it. Like, I was like really like into the prayer and like feeling these things, and then all of a sudden this blinding white light started shining through all the windows in my house. Like it was like the middle of the night, and it was daytime. Like I could see every part of my house illuminated by this blinding white light. And like I remember running downstairs, and as I was running downstairs, the light slowly faded away. And when I got to my mom, I was like, "Did you see that white light?" It just lit up the whole house, and she had no idea what I was talking about. It was a complete. So yeah, maybe it was God, but it was probably some kind of psychosis or hallucination kind of thing.
So like experiences like that.
Yeah.
For one, were those common growing up? Like was that like a weekly occurrence?
Now and even then, it's not weekly. It's daily and multiple times a day. Like even as we're talking right now, there's like people hanging out in the doorways. There's like, I see things all the time out of the corner of my eyes, shadow people. So yeah, it's always been a daily thing for me. My hallucinations are visual, but I would say I have a lot stronger auditory hallucinations. So like hearing disembodied voices and hearing my name being called and hearing just different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, like as I got sicker, it grew worse to the point where it was almost 24/7. So during my first psychotic episode, there was a haze to my vision. It was sort of dreamlike. It was like there was like a fog almost over the whole world, and like lights looked different. And it was, so now that I'm properly medicated and seeking help for these things, like it's definitely lessened. Like I can see clearer, but I still see shadow people and like all those kinds of things and things that aren't possible, people in places that can't be possible, or people that are too tall to exist and stuff like that.
So auditory hallucinations you mentioned are a very big one for you.
Yes.
As far as how schizophrenia works, what are to your knowledge, the different types of hallucinations or the symptoms of schizophrenia?
So it's different. It is different for everyone experiencing schizophrenia, but as far as I know, I'm pretty sure you can hallucinate all of your senses.
Yeah.
So sight, hearing, smell, taste. And I do have bits of all of that. Like if I think something may have sat too long or is bad, then my brain will often tell me that it smells rotten. But and my hallucinations are auditory, but in my visual ones, they're not often. If I look at something, like if there's a person in the corner, out of the corner of my eye, and I look, usually that person disappears.
Yeah.
But I know some schizophrenics, like, they can look directly at something, a hallucination, and that hallucination will still be there, and it'll move, and it'll interact with the environment it's in, kind of thing. And like, so I don't necessarily experience that so much, but during the psychotic episode, I could definitely feel it more. But
so it's kind of like for you. So when the visual hallucinations are happening, they're kind of always there, but if you acknowledge them, they kind of disappear.
Yeah.
If you acknowledge one specifically.
Yes. Yeah. It kind of disappears. Yeah.
Is that ever? Is it scary?
It depends.
I guess it
depends on the situation you're in. So like, if let's say, like right now, it's not scary. Because there's lights, I'm with people, it's just like, oh yeah, that's just Ted.
This is Ted. Hey, Ted.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. But if I find I have a lot of trouble being alone. So like, if I'm alone in my house, or if I'm working alone, or especially at night if I'm alone, it can be scarier. And I think maybe it's less scary now that I know what it is, compared to when I didn't know what it was. But yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, but so what's the youngest age that you remember seeing hallucinations, or when the symptoms of schizophrenia really started?
I think I've had it my whole life. Like, I think I had it before I can even remember. My mom tells a story that every time she would change me at our baby changing thing in our house, there was one corner that I had to face, or I'd freak out. And I would just stare at the corner and like wave and smile at it, and like, so I don't know what I was seeing, but if I saw a familiar face, or maybe someone who had passed on or something like that. So with schizophrenia, it's kind of your pattern-seeking behavior that goes off. So like, we develop pattern-seeking in olden times to sense danger.
Yeah.
So it was like,
right?
it was like sense danger. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, okay, every time that happens, this bad thing happens. So with schizophrenia, it's more like, okay, I seen 3 red cars today. And it's like, most people are like, that's weird, I saw 3 red cars. But for schizophrenics, it often plays into your paranoias or your delusions, right? So it'd be like, those 3 cars means this. And it's a very the thing that is hard is it's a very logical disease. It's crazy, and it doesn't make sense. But it's like, okay, all of these things that aren't connected, you can connect in your head, kind of thing.
For somebody who, say, isn't dealing with schizophrenia, 3 red cars, no biggie. For yourself, living with schizophrenia, it's playing with the logic, and so that seeing through red cars, that's identifying a pattern. In your mind, that pattern could mean danger.
Could mean danger. Yeah. I have a lot of illusions of grandeur. So, like, sometimes, and if it's bad, like, I believe I'm sent from a god to, like, save the world and those kinds of things. So I often think that maybe somebody from the future is sent back to kill me before I can accomplish something great. And so anyways, when I see patterns in cars or out in the world or those kinds of things, it is like, well, that's people tracking me. That's people hunting me down, kind of thing. And when I was in my psychotic episode, it's always a fear of being found out. And it's like, it wasn't necessarily that same pattern, but when I was in my psychotic episode, I believed that I had left this universe and gone to a new one, and that I had to act like the Isaac that's in this universe, or I'd be found out and killed for it. So it is always very centered around danger or being hunted.
Did your family recognize anything at all? At any
No,
point?
I've always been very good at hiding what I'm going through. Usually I tell people after, like, I was pretty crazy for the last month, and they're like, really? And it's like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah, that was a rough month. Now that we know what I have, and now talking about it, my parents will say that there was a lot of like signs, or like, you know, things make more sense now. I think it was always there, and I think now looking back on it, like me saying I'm seeing family members who have passed away, or there was this one windowsill where I always saw a cat, even though there was no possible way a cat could get on that windowsill the way it was in the house.
It was like a third-story window.
Yeah. It was basically like second-story window, but no roof or balcony or anything near it. Like it was like, that cat would have to jump very high to get up there. So, I think I don't know. Yeah, they didn't notice much. And I started receiving help in grade 11.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
What was it like in high school?
So basically, I started cutting myself when I was in grade 7. Pretty severely. My legs, if you see them, are like very...
That was kind of where you centered.
That's these two thighs. I did it on my shoulder for a while. You can still kind of see some scars. There's some deeper ones that still show through. But then this didn't work, because then if I went swimming, you could see...
They're visible.
They were visible, but here they were always hidden. And I like pretty much almost cut myself daily, I'd say, from grade 7 to grade 11.
Started in grade 7.
It started in grade 7, and then slowly it got worse and worse, and then maybe there'd be like a month period where I wouldn't. But anyways, that's how I ended up I had cut myself in the school bathroom pretty severely, and I was bleeding a lot, and I had bled through my uniform pants or whatever, and I texted a friend, and I was like, what do I do? Like I can't walk. Like people will know.
You can't go back.
I can't go outside to the hallway because there's blood everywhere, kind of thing. And they basically just went, okay, they had known for a long time I was doing this, and they basically were like, okay, this has gone on long enough, and then went and told the counselor.
Yes.
And then the counselor came. He called my mom. Mom came and picked me up from school.
So that went on for you until, I think you mentioned grade 11 or 12.
Grade 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So after I started getting help, I continued to self-harm. I can't even remember. It's funny, I remember the first time, but I don't even remember the last time I self-harmed. But it just slowly, basically once I started getting help, and once my parents were aware of what was going on, it became impossible to hide it. Because if they did see blood anywhere, then they knew the truth. So I just slowly just sort of phased out of it, and then I haven't done it in years. Not that the feeling has gone away. I still all the time think about doing it again. Never driving enough to actually do it.
Yeah.
And now at this point, I just feel like I've grown past it, but it's still there.
What age was it that you began medication for schizophrenia anyway?
So the thing with schizophrenia is you can't be diagnosed with schizophrenia until you've had your first psychotic episode.
Oh.
So that is like one basically requirement to getting a schizophrenic diagnosis.
Really?
Yeah. So I was originally diagnosed with, I can never remember its name. It's like diacetyl or something. Basically, it's a depressive disorder. It's not major depressive disorder where like in major depressive, you'll have like a really, really bad month or a really, really bad week. my disorder is that my depressive episodes can last, they're milder, so I can still go to work and go to my job, or
you can still function.
You can function, but they can last for 2 years.
Oh my, wow.
So a depressive episode can last 2 years. So I got diagnosed with that. I think I got diagnosed with like a general anxiety disorder and psychosis. So psychosis is kind of the precursor to schizophrenia. And if you properly medicate psychosis and get the proper help and live the proper lifestyle, it doesn't necessarily grow into schizophrenia.
Okay.
So that's what I first got diagnosed with. And then I started taking an antidepressant, and I think anti-anxiety. I don't think I was taking an antipsychotic yet.
Okay.
And then after high school, my illicit drug use, got very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Started shooting up heroin and all kinds of things, just doing all kinds of drugs. And then basically what triggered my first psychotic episode is I took 5 tabs of acid while on speed, and then it sort of triggered the first psychotic episode. Hospitalized twice for that, attempted suicide during that, and then that is when I got the official schizophrenic diagnosis, and that's when I got put on it's a drug called Invega Trinza. And it's a monthly injection to start. So you go every month and get an injection at the hospital or somewhere like that. And then after you do that for 6 months, it goes to 3 months. Every 3 months you get the injection. And that is when I started getting the injection, because I didn't have to remember to take medications for it, is really when things started to turn around and to get better with the schizophrenia.
Wow. So at this point in your life now, do you still take it every 3 months?
Yes.
Yes.
I will take it the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Schizophrenia is one of those disorders that you can never not medicate it. You can't like manage it without medication.
It's good to know that there are medications available for you to make schizophrenia something you can live with and thrive with, right?
It is true, yes, but one problem is, with my doctor, he can get me my medication for free once I come off the Ontario drug plan at 25, but if you don't have that, the injection is like $1,200. If I leave this province, like let's say I want to move somewhere,
then
I lose him.
Yeah.
So then I would have to switch to pill form. So it is good that there are medications that work, but it's not good because there's like, I know not everybody, and probably hardly anyone has that kind of opportunity that I do to get this medication for free.
Yeah. So how does taking the medication change your daily experience with schizophrenia? What does it necessarily do?
It basically just keeps my head on straight.
Yeah.
So before I was being properly medicated, my vision was hazy, and the hallucinations were worse, the delusional thinking was worse. And even like when I'm getting to the end of my 3 months in the injection, I noticed that my brain, so basically I think the best description of what a schizophrenic brain feels like, it was in this documentary, and this person said, it's like you have 47 TV channels playing at the same time in your head. And when it was really bad for me, my brain was so loud, it felt like a freight train was going through it. Like it was like, and that was just a constant hum in the back of my head. So quiet, I guess is the best way to describe the medication, is just, it's quiet in my head.
When you take the medication, it's like is it an immediate, like it's...
So it takes once the 3 months runs out, it starts getting louder and louder as time approaches. The hallucinations start getting more and more vivid. that's why I've started taking pills, is when it starts to run out, I start taking pills to supplement it so that doesn't happen as much. But then it takes about 2 or 3 days after the injection for it to, I don't necessarily, but then that first month, I'm really zonked out. I'm tired all the time. I'm like, it's hard to put thoughts together. Like, I'm too low. So I would say like the middle month. I guess, yeah. Like 1 month out of every 3 is like the perfect level.
Okay, so it kind of has this path to it. Where
yeah,
it's like
it kind of
the first
is like
month you'd be low, and in the middle your plateau, you're the good.
Yeah, and then it kind of slowly
dwindles down again.
Yeah. So it's very, yeah, like, honestly, I've been on the medication now for so long, 4 years, going on 4 years. So it's hard. I don't necessarily remember exactly what it was like.
What was your experience like accessing services to help in our area, in Huron and Perth County? When
I first got found out by the guidance counselor, we made an appointment with the nurse practitioner, and then she recommended us to a therapist that was in the Clinton Family Health Team building. So she was the first person to see me, and then it took me about 6 to 8 months to actually see a psychologist to even get prescribed medication. And then after that, we got recommended to free programs. I basically went from the PEP program and then got recommended to the CMHA and then ended up at another one and then another one. So I never really had I don't think I really had consistent help until after the first psychotic episode, and we just started paying for my original therapist to see her. It was annoying when I was first getting help, getting shifted around, and my counselors kept getting changed. They kept getting moved around, so it's constantly seeing new people.
Bouncing to and from.
Yeah, and I basically just gave up at a certain point. I think it was the 5th or 6th person I was seeing, and they handed me a questionnaire, and it had a list of all of the questions that I think I had answered every time for the last 5 or 6, and I went, I don't care anymore. Like, it was like, I don't need to answer these questions anymore. We just keep starting back at square one. And so I just gave up, and I didn't see anyone aside from my psychologist, I think, for like almost 2 years. And then I was like, I need to talk to someone. So now he's like, my parents agreed to pay for which is also something a lot of people can't do.
How could you describe the difference between regular daily life living with schizophrenia and what an actual psychosis episode feels like?
It's like a fever dream. Yeah. It's just sort of like, I don't know. Because the daily life just feels normal. When it's in a psychotic episode, one, you have a really hard time recognizing it as one. And two, so it's more like when you're in it, you don't necessarily notice the difference. Mm-hmm. But then looking back on it, you're like, okay, I was doing this and I was doing that. I was doing this all differently. It's very feverish. It's like constantly, it's louder. It's like racing thoughts, and like everything around you seems quicker, and like everything looks different to you. Like lights will shine brighter or dimmer, or it's harder to read or hear people talk. And it's like, in the moment, you don't necessarily notice all of those things. But when I look back at my psychotic episode, it has a haze to it. Mm-hmm. It's very like hazy, and like I don't remember much from it. It's just very, it's crazy. For lack of a better word, it's just crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Schizophrenia, for a lot of people, schizophrenia is something that you could say there's a misunderstanding around it, or just a lack of understanding in general.
Yep.
But in your own words, with your own lived experience, if there was anything that you wanted to tell somebody about what schizophrenia is, like to help them with their understanding, what would that be?
I think that it's just a mental illness. That, it's different for everyone. Mostly, and it's not violent, I think is one main thing. People with schizophrenia are actually more likely to experience violence than they are to commit violence. But yeah, just that we're just people, because I think that's kind of where a lot of it comes from, is people think it's this disease that lends itself to violence or lends itself to more dangerous behaviors and stuff like that, but which it can, but it most likely will not. And then, that it's just, we just see and think and hear things differently.
Because that's a big piece of the stigma that surrounds the idea of schizophrenia, is that it's a violent disorder, or it's like, would you say, like, for lack of a better way of saying it, like one of the scarier mental illnesses,
it's definitely,
because whenever it's reported in the news, it's always in a negative light.
Yeah, one, it's either violent, or two, it's crazy, or three, it's shown in a pitying light, where it's like, look at this beautiful mind destroyed by schizophrenia, you know what I mean? Like,
it's never shown in a light of,
it's never shown
something you can live with.
Something you can live with, that it's not completely debilitating. And that, because I do so many, I have 3 different kinds of jobs. I create art, I act in plays, I can cook really good food, like, I'm personable, I have a lot of friends, I can do so many things, and maybe it's changed because of schizophrenia, but it doesn't make it any less, or that kind of thing. So I think basically it's that you can't paint, schizophrenia especially, is you can't paint it with one brush, kind of thing.
There's always such blanket statements that cover what schizophrenia is, but no, it's something that's different for everybody. And the experience of living with schizophrenia is so varied, so wide.
And it's even varied in how severe it is too. It's definitely on the spectrum. But yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else you would like to say?
No.
Awesome.
Not really. I think I'm good.
Cool.
You good?
Yeah. You good?
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
I'm alright.
That's awesome. Fair. That's fair.
No, that was great. Thank you,
Okay. Nice.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.